Michael sat alone in the dimly lit living room, his eyes fixed on the glow of his phone. The buzz shattered the quiet night, a vibration that seemed to echo through his bones. He reached for it hesitantly, his breath uneven. His wife, Sarah, was asleep upstairs, her soft breathing a reminder of the life they had built together. He unlocked the phone, his heart tightening as the message appeared. "I miss you already, can't wait until tomorrow night." Michael froze, his throat dry, his chest pounding with disbelief. His hand trembled, gripping the phone like it might shatter under the weight of the words. He whispered to himself, "No, it can't be her." His mind spiraled, each second stretching into eternity. The silence in the room grew heavier, pressing down on him until he thought he might suffocate. He stood abruptly, pacing as if movement might dissolve the truth staring back at him. Michael said, "God, why would she do this?" He stopped near the window, staring out at the streetlights, their glow distorted through the tears welling in his eyes. The world outside looked unchanged, cruelly normal, while inside his life was crumbling in real time. The night pressed heavily on Michael as he sat again, his mind replaying the message like a broken record. He thought of Sarah's smile, the laughter they once shared, the trust he had poured into every corner of their marriage. Michael whispered, "It has to be a mistake." But deep inside, the truth gnawed at him, relentless and cruel. His hands trembled as he imagined her with someone else, those words written for another man, not him. The walls of the living room felt like they were closing in, the silence deafening, the air suffocating. He clenched his jaw, struggling to breathe, trying to remember the man he used to be before suspicion poisoned his thoughts. He muttered bitterly, "I gave her everything, and this is what I get." The anger bubbled beneath his sorrow, a storm waiting to erupt. Yet in that moment, his heart was split wide open, torn between disbelief and despair. Michael scrolled through the phone, hands shaking, searching desperately for a sign that it wasn't what it seemed. Every line, every message, cut him deeper. His mind raced to Sarah's recent late nights, her vague excuses. "Working late," she said. But now, those words rang hollow. He muttered to himself, "How long has this been happening?" The thought made him nauseous, his stomach twisting. He slammed the phone on the table, his breath ragged, and buried his face in his hands. The truth was clawing at him, relentless. For the first time, he realized his marriage was not what he thought it was. His chest ached as if crushed by a weight he could not lift. He whispered brokenly, "What did I do wrong?" Michael rose again, pacing, each step echoing in the silence. He stopped before a framed photo on the wall, him and Sarah on their wedding day, smiling with radiant joy. He stared at the image, his throat tightening as tears blurred his vision. Was it all a lie? He whispered, fingertips brushing the glass. The memory of their vows replayed in his mind, words now hollow. His chest heaved, caught between rage and heartbreak. His reflection in the glass stared back at him, broken, a stranger he barely recognized. He clenched his fist, wanting to smash the photo but pulling back, paralyzed by love and betrayal, entwined in cruel harmony. Michael sank back onto the sofa, exhaustion weighing him down. His mind drifted to Sarah's laugh, the warmth of her touch, moments that once defined his happiness. He whispered, "I don't even know her anymore." The betrayal had rewired his world, every memory now tainted by doubt. He gripped a cushion tightly, his knuckles pale, as though clinging to what was left of the life they shared. But all he felt was emptiness. His chest rose and fell in shallow breaths, the silence broken only by the faint ticking of a clock on the wall. He closed his eyes, fighting the urge to scream, knowing the storm had only begun. The sun crept through the blinds, painting the room in thin golden lines, but Michael felt no warmth. He sat at the edge of the bed, staring at Sarah as she stirred awake. She smiled faintly, her eyes soft with morning calm, as if nothing had changed. Michael's stomach tightened, the memory of the message gnawing at him like a wound that wouldn't close. He whispered, "Good morning," but the words tasted bitter, hollow. Sarah leaned closer, brushing her hair from her face, unaware of the storm inside him. Michael studied her, wondering if he ever truly knew her, or if she had always been a stranger behind familiar eyes. His heart ached, torn between love and the gnawing suspicion that threatened to consume him. He thought, how can she look so peaceful when my world is falling apart? For the first time, he realized he no longer trusted the woman lying beside him. Michael forced himself into routine, pouring coffee in the kitchen, while Sarah hummed softly nearby. The sound, once comforting, now pierced him like glass. He gripped the mug too tightly, his knuckles pale. Sarah said, "You're quiet this morning." He glanced at her, her expression curious, her eyes wide with innocence. He forced a smile, muttering, "Just tired." Inside, rage and sorrow clashed violently. He watched her pour milk into her cup, graceful, ordinary, as if betrayal hadn't poisoned the air. Michael's mind replayed the words on that glowing screen, the whisper of a lover who wasn't him. His chest heaved as he tried to breathe normally, the act of pretending draining every ounce of strength. He wondered if she could see it, the fracture spreading across his soul. Later that afternoon, Michael sat in his car outside the office, gripping the steering wheel as if it were the only thing anchoring him to reality. He stared at the glass doors, but his thoughts refused to focus on work. He thought only of Sarah, of the message, of the lies. "What else have I missed?" he muttered. His chest felt hollow, like someone had carved out his center and left only echoes behind. A colleague waved as they passed by, but Michael barely raised a hand in response. The world carried on, indifferent, while his life unraveled. He leaned back in the seat, shutting his eyes, hoping for clarity. Instead, the image of Sarah's smile burned through his mind like a cruel memory of something he no longer recognized as real. That evening, Michael met his friend David at a quiet bar, hoping for solace. The dim lights flickered against the wood-paneled walls, shadows stretching long. David, a 35-year-old male with broad shoulders and short black hair, leaned in, concern etched on his face. "You don't look okay," he said. Michael forced a bitter laugh, replying, "I'm not." He hesitated, his lips trembling, unsure if he should reveal the truth. The words swelled in his throat, painful and urgent, but fear of saying them aloud weighed heavy. He glanced at his beer, condensation dripping like the sweat on his palms. David pressed, "You can tell me, you know." Michael exhaled sharply, shaking his head. He wasn't ready. Not yet. Speaking it aloud meant it was real. And real was unbearable. That night, back home, Michael stood silently in the doorway of their bedroom, watching Sarah red beneath the soft glow of the lamp. Her blonde hair fell gently over her shoulders, her face serene, her focus on the pages before her. He whispered softly, "How can you look so perfect while lying to me?" His chest tightened, torn between love and fury, devotion and betrayal. Sarah glanced up, smiling faintly, unaware of the storm inside him. He forced a nod, stepping further into the room, his heart screaming against his silence. He lay beside her, the weight of truth pressing between them like a cold, invisible wall. Every second beside her was agony, every breath a reminder of the fracture they now shared, though only he knew it. Michael sat at the dining table, staring at Sarah's phone left carelessly beside her purse. His heart pounded, each beat echoing like a drum inside his chest. He whispered, "Don't do it, don't look." But temptation crushed him. He reached out, fingers trembling, unlocking it with ease. The screen revealed a trail of texts, sweet words not meant for him. "Last night was perfect. I can't stop thinking about you." His stomach knotted, bile rising. He pressed the phone down, hands shaking, anger and sorrow warring inside him. Sarah entered the room, smiling, holding a grocery bag. "You okay?" she asked casually. Michael forced a weak grin, muttering, "Yeah, just tired." Inside, his soul screamed. Every gesture, Every word she spoke now felt like a cruel performance, her mask flawless while his heart unraveled in silence. Michael drove aimlessly through the quiet suburban streets that evening, headlights cutting through the dark. His grip on the wheel was tight, his jaw locked. "How many lies has she told me?" he muttered, the words spilling like venom. His eyes darted between street signs he barely recognized, mind spiraling with images of Sarah's smile, her laughter, her tender touches, now poisoned by betrayal. He pulled over suddenly, slamming his fists against the wheel. The silence of the night pressed against him, broken only by his ragged breaths. His reflection in the windshield stared back, pale, hollow, unrecognizable. He whispered, "I don't even know who I am anymore." Tears blurred his vision as he sat there, lost, swallowed by darkness both outside and within. At work the next day, Michael tried to bury himself in paperwork, but his hands shook too much to hold the pen steady. The office buzzed with chatter, yet he felt trapped in silence. His colleague Anna, a 30-year-old female with dark hair and sharp eyes, noticed his distraction. She leaned over, asking, "Row night?" Michael forced a laugh, muttering, "Something like that." Anna studied him, concern flickering across her face, but she said nothing more. Michael stared at his computer screen, the words blurring, the world meaningless. Every ringing phone, every passing voice felt distant. His mind clung to Sarah, the texts, the lies. He thought, how do I keep breathing when the person I love is suffocating me with secrets? The office walls felt like a cage, tightening with every passing second. That evening, Michael sat across from Sarah at dinner. The clink of silverware echoed in the silence between them. Sarah smiled faintly, asking, "You've been quiet lately. Everything okay?" Michael looked at her, the question slicing into him like a knife. He muttered, "I'm fine." But his tone betrayed him, sharp and hollow. Sarah tilted her head, her expression puzzled, then returned to her plate as if nothing were wrong. Michael studied her every move, the way she avoided his eyes, the faint nervous twitch in her fingers. He thought, she knows I'm onto her. The food on his plate blurred as rage bubbled beneath his grief. He clenched his fist beneath the table, knuckles white, holding back the words clawing at his throat. The silence between them was louder than any argument. Later that night, Michael stood in the bathroom, gripping the sink, staring into the mirror. His reflection glared back, eyes bloodshot, face pale with exhaustion. He whispered, "You're falling apart." He splashed cold water over his face, but nothing could wash away the betrayal etched into his soul. Behind him, Sarah's laughter drifted faintly from the bedroom, carefree and melodic, mocking him with its sweetness. He slammed his hand against the counter, veins straining, the sound reverberating through the small space. He whispered again, "Why her? Why me?" His chest heaved as he sank to the floor, back against the cold tiles, his body shaking with silent sobs. For the first time, he realized he was unraveling beyond repair. Morning bled into afternoon while Michael scrolled through bank alerts he had ignored for months. A rideshare receipt glowed on the screen, time-stamped late at night, charged near a boutique hotel downtown. He felt the floor tilt, a slow slide into dread. He whispered, "You said you were at the office." He opened their shared calendar and saw a recurring note, marked simply DD. His throat tightened as he traced the entries back weeks. The pattern was meticulous, precise, almost tender in its cruelty. He said, "Who is D, Sarah?" The question bounced off the emptiness of the house. He grabbed his keys with shaking hands, the clink echoing in the quiet hall. He told himself he only wanted the truth, but the truth already had teeth. He drove with knuckles white, heart pounding harder than the engine. He muttered, "This ends today." The city blurred past as he chased a name he feared he recognized. The boutique hotel lobby smelled of citrus and polished wood, its hush broken only by distant elevator chimes. Michael stood by a marble column, trying to steady his breath as guests drifted past. He watched the front desk, noting every smile and card swipe like a detective learning a new language. He said, "Room numbers don't lie." He opened the ride receipt again and matched the timestamp to a check-in log on the counter screen. When the clerk turned away, his pulse raced as the name flashed on a reservation. The last name was hers, but the companion field was blank. He felt a tremor of hope, a coward's last shield. He muttered, maybe she booked it alone. Then the elevator doors slid open, and a memory struck him. David's cologne, that sharp cedar note from the bar. The thought lit like a fuse. He whispered, "Please, no." The elevator chimed again, daring him to look. The elevator opened, and Sarah stepped out, hair perfectly arranged, blouse tucked with casual elegance. She laughed at a private comment, then moved aside. David followed, shoulders relaxed, that same cedar scent trailing him like a signature. Michael felt the world tilt again, then shatter. Sarah froze when she saw him, her smile dying in slow motion. David stopped a step behind her, color draining from his face. Michael said, "'Twasn't a code." Sarah whispered, "I can explain," but her voice wavered. David lifted his hands, the diplomat, the friend, the traitor behind a calm mask. Michael heard the lobby hum fade to a dull roar inside his head. He muttered, "How long?" Sarah's eyes flickered, searching for purchase on a cliff that had already given way. David said, "Let's go somewhere private." Michael's laugh was brittle. The reveal arrived without mercy, wearing familiar faces and their shared history like a knife. They moved to a side lounge with velvet chairs and a view of the street. Michael stood, refusing the comfort. He said, "Why him?" Sarah stared at the city, lips pressed pale. She whispered, "I felt invisible." The words landed like ash. David added, "It started as talking, then we crossed a line." Michael's fists curled at his sides as the timeline rearranged itself, milestones twisting into warnings he had ignored. He asked, "Was the bar a setup?" David flinched, then nodded once. Sarah's eyes filled, not with apology, but with the fatigue of chosen deceit. Michael tasted bitterness, metallic and heavy. He said, "You both watched me fall apart and kept going." Sarah murmured, "I didn't know how to stop." The admission was smaller than the harm. Michael felt a clean edge replace the chaos. He whispered, "You did know, and you didn't." Silence followed, precise as a verdict. Michael stepped closer to the window, watching traffic crawl beneath a bruised sky. He said, "You were my friend." David lowered his eyes, the mask finally slipping. Sarah reached out a tentative hand, but stopped before touching him. Michael felt grief flatten into resolve, a new shape forming where trust had lived. He said, "This ends now." The words steadied him, anchoring his breath. He pictured the house, the vows, the slow theft of his certainty. He would not let them write the ending for him. Sarah whispered, "Can we talk at home?" He shook his head, gentle but immovable. "You talk," he said. "I hear lies." The sentence hung like a blade between them. He turned away from their imploring eyes, choosing the clean pain of leaving over the dull ache of staying blind. Outside, the city lights flickered on, indifferent and honest. Michael unlocked the front door at dusk, the house steeped in a bruised quiet. He placed his keys down carefully, as if noise might shatter fragile control. Sarah stood in the kitchen, hands wrapped around a glass of water. He said, "We're done with half-truths." She blinked, eyes wide, searching for a gentler version of the moment. Michael felt his chest rise like a bellows, then steady. He added, "I saw you with David." The name cracked the air like ice. Sarah whispered, "I never meant to hurt you." He replied, "You meant to hide it." Silence crawled across the tile, cool and unyielding. He thought of the vows they spoke, and the lies they lived. He said, "Tonight, we talk or we end." The choice hovered between them, sharp as glass. They moved to the living room, the lamp casting a narrow halo between them. Michael said, "How long?" Sarah stared at the rug, voice thin. She murmured, "Months." He felt the word land like a hammer on bone. He asked, Was I blind or did you make me blind? She whispered. I was lonely. He said, I was here. She lifted her head with sudden anger, heat breaking through her guilt. She said, you stopped listening. Michael swallowed hard, the truth twisted and weaponized. He replied, I begged for us to fix things. Sarah's shoulders fell, exhaustion overtaking fury. She said, I kept going when I should have stopped. Michael let the sentence end like a door closing. Michael stood and paced, each step a measure of restraint. He said, did he plan the bar to test me? Sarah inhaled sharply, then nodded once. He felt fury bloom cold, not hot. He said, he was my friend. She rubbed her temples, whispering, I know. Michael faced the window, city lights blurred like tears he refused to shed. He said, every kindness from him now feels like theater. Sarah's voice cracked. I kept hoping I would end it. He turned back, words steady as steel. He said, hope without action is permission. The sentence rang through the room, clean and merciless. She lowered her gaze, hands knitting together like a confession. He realized forgiveness could not grow in this soil. The front door opened, and David stepped in, summoned by a terse text from Michael. He paused at the threshold, reading the room like a battlefield. Michael said, no more whispers. David lifted his hands, palms open. He said, I was wrong. Michael nodded, expression unreadable. He asked, did you love her, or did you love winning? David flinched, words failing where excuses once lived. Sarah whispered, please, stop. Michael's voice stayed level, the calm of a storm eye. He said, you watched me break and chose silence. David's shoulders sagged, the performance finally stripped. He said, I don't have a defense. Michael answered, good, then hear the damage. The living room seemed to lean in, listening. Michael set 3 items on the coffee table. Their wedding photo, a house key, and his ring. He said, these are the truths left standing. Sarah reached toward the photo, then stopped. David stared at the floor, every second heavy. Michael continued, I will not share my life with deceit. His voice did not rise. Its steadiness cut deeper. He added, you will both leave tonight. Sarah's breath hitched, fear and sorrow colliding. She said, please, let me explain to the family. He replied, you chose this story. You can tell it. David whispered, I'm sorry. Michael nodded once, granting nothing. He said, I take back my house, my time, my name. The words closed like a lock, final and clear. Michael sat alone in the quiet house the morning after, the air heavy with absence. The walls felt both foreign and familiar, stripped of their illusions. He whispered, so, this is what's left. Sunlight streamed through the blinds, too bright for the hollow ache in his chest. He glanced at the empty sofa where Sarah once laughed, and the doorway where David had stood with false friendship. Memories stabbed, but no tears came this time. He said softly, I thought betrayal would destroy me, but silence feels worse. His breathing slowed as he realized the storm had passed, leaving a shattered but steady calm. He picked up the ring again, not to wear it, but to look at the scars it represented. He muttered, it won't define me. The words held no fire, but they carried a strange kind of strength. Later, Michael walked through the park, the crisp autumn air cooling his skin. Children laughed in the distance, their joy a reminder of life's persistence. He thought, the world moves on, even when you break. A jogger passed, nodding casually, grounding him in normalcy. He whispered, I can move too. He sat on a bench, leaves drifting around him, red and gold like fragments of endings and beginnings. For the first time, he didn't picture Sarah's face when he closed his eyes. Instead, he saw open space, possibility, fragile but real. He let his shoulders drop, the tension uncoiling slowly. He said, this pain isn't permanent. The words tasted uncertain, but they belonged to him alone. Michael visited his sister Emily, who greeted him with cautious warmth. Emily, 36 years old brunette, placed a hand on his arm and said, "You don't have to carry this alone." He nodded, his throat tight. He said, "I thought admitting it would make me weaker." Emily shook her head gently, eyes filled with empathy. She whispered, "It makes you human." Michael felt the words soften something inside, a reminder that betrayal had not stolen all forms of love from his life. They sat in her kitchen, the smell of coffee grounding him in familiarity. He exhaled, his chest lighter than it had been in weeks. He muttered, "Maybe I can start again." Emily replied, "Not maybe, you will." The promise in her voice was steady, anchoring him in family when his marriage had collapsed. Michael returned to work, standing before the mirror in the office restroom. His reflection looked older, but steadier. He whispered, "You're still here." He splashed cool water over his face, staring at the lines carved by sleepless nights. When he walked back to his desk, Anna glanced up, offering a smile. She said, "Good to see you back." He nodded, surprised by the comfort in her words. Sitting at his desk, he finally opened his laptop without dread. The screen glowed, not as a reminder of betrayal, but as a tool to rebuild. He thought, "Work won't heal me, but it will move me forward." He straightened his posture, his breathing deep. The weight hadn't vanished, but it no longer pinned him. That evening, Michael stood on the balcony of his apartment, the city stretching before him in a sea of lights. The night air was cool, carrying the hum of distant traffic. He whispered, "This is my beginning." He remembered Sarah's smile, David's betrayal, and the nights he drowned in silence. They were still scars, but scars no longer bled. He placed the wedding ring on the railing, staring at it one last time before slipping it into a drawer behind him. He said, "It's not my prison anymore." His chest rose and fell with a deep breath, cleansing. For the first time, he saw the skyline not as backdrop to his pain, but as a horizon waiting. The city felt alive, and so did he. Michael sat in his car outside Sarah's family home, invited for one final talk. The evening air hung thick with dread, the porch light glowing like a sentinel. He whispered, "One last time." He stepped out, shoulders squared, heart steady. Inside, Sarah waited at the dining table, eyes hollow but searching. She said softly, "I didn't think you'd come." He replied, "I didn't come for you. I came for closure." Her lips parted, words failing. The room smelled faintly of rosemary, once comforting, now foreign. Michael sat across from her, the silence thick. He said, "This story ends tonight." Sarah looked down at her hands, the weight of finality breaking her calm. The space between them brimmed with everything unsaid, and everything already known. Sarah's voice cracked as she whispered, "I never stopped loving you." Michael studied her face, searching for truth, finding only echoes. He said, "Love without loyalty isn't love." Her tears slid silently, but he didn't move. He remembered the nights he begged for her honesty, and the silence she gave instead. He leaned back, exhaling, saying, "Your choices built this ending." Sarah shook her head, whispering, "I was lost." Michael replied, "You chose to stay lost." The words cut, but carried no rage, only finality. Her sobs filled the room, but Michael no longer bent under their weight. He had learned that grief could transform into clarity. He said, "I leave you here with what you made." Her shoulders collapsed under the truth. Michael stood and walked toward the doorway, his footsteps deliberate. Sarah's voice followed, trembling. "Do you hate me?" He paused, back turned, and whispered, "No. Hating you means you still matter." The line hung in the air like smoke. Sarah covered her face, weeping, but Michael didn't turn back. He thought of David, of the laughter they once shared, now dust in his memory. He muttered, "He betrayed me too, but this isn't about him anymore." He gripped the doorknob, cool metal grounding him in the moment. He said softly, "You didn't think I'd ever find out, did you?" The silence behind him answered more than words ever could. He opened the door, stepping into the night, leaving betrayal behind. Outside, the cool night wrapped around Michael as he descended the porch steps. The street was silent, stars faintly visible above. He inhaled deeply, the first breath of freedom he'd felt in months. He whispered, "It's over." The weight on his chest eased slightly, replaced with something raw but clean. He walked toward his car, each step pulling him farther from betrayal and closer to himself. The street lamp cast long shadows that stretched like reminders of what he'd endured. He touched the car door, pausing as he felt resolve solidify within him. He said softly, "This isn't my ending, it's my beginning." His reflection in the window stared back, no longer broken, but scarred and steady. For the first time, he believed himself. Michael sat in the driver's seat, hands resting calmly on the wheel. He didn't start the engine right away. Instead, he closed his eyes, listening to the stillness. For the first time, the silence wasn't suffocating, it was his. He whispered, "I survive." His chest rose with a steady breath, no tremor in his voice. He glanced once more at the house in the rearview mirror, its windows glowing faintly, but no longer his prison. He turned the key, the engine rumbling like a heartbeat syncing with his own. As he pulled away, the road stretched ahead, dark yet alive with possibility. He whispered again, "I am free." The words carved themselves into the night, his final vow to himself.